king, I am not a god, I am Humpday!
What's good, Tano? Today's video is about the Daikyu Prime, the Ready Prime signature weapon to take down level 1 to 9,999 steel path enemies in Warframe. Always I make sure my builds scales without any boosts and without any ribbons. First thing first, let me show you the performance of the weapon at level cap. And that's the power of the Daikyu. I bet that you didn't expect the weapon would perform that good. Don't forget to like and subscribe because 79.9% of you watching and not subscribed. Now, as always, before I build my weapons and my warframes, I rely on my method called DVS. And if you use this method, I am sure you'll be able to make your own builds to outperform your friends. Now, D stands for how I'll be dealing damage, what elements I'll be using, what's the faction I'll be fighting. Then I check on wiki to check what mods works and what not on the warframe and the weapon. V stands for how I proc 10 stacks of viral to make enemies vulnerable by 325% more damage with their HP. Viral is a meta because every enemy in the game has an HP. S stands for stripping enemies armor. We talk about, for example, Grineer, Orkin and so on, not the Infested and the Corpus. By lowering armor, we lower the damage reduction to deal higher damage. Now, of course, I know and I believe every Tano has their own style, so this sheet will help you maneuver around my methods to find your own style and you enjoy the game. Now, please stick to the comment section guidelines so everyone can benefit, new players or veterans, so when they read the comments, they can learn something or two. Let's go. Starting first with Revenant. I use Revenant so I don't boost the weapon in any way, so you can apply this build with a damage boosting warframe like Sarin, or like, for example, Rhino, Eclipse from Mirage, and so on, or any warframe of your choice, even Excalibur, and the weapon will perform the same. Now, when it comes to the Archon Shards, 3 Violet Archon Shards for melee critical damage, which is irrelevant, but if you're playing a damage boosting warframe, probably you want, for example, a strength or duration. Now, the 2 Emerald Archon Shards, they are optional and use them only if you plan on using a priming weapon for proccing corrosive, or you're using Tempest Barrage Hydroid subsumable ability to armor strip enemies. Now, how armor stripping enemies with Emerald Archon Shards work? Now, first thing first, corrosive by default, 10 stacks, 80% armor strip. With 2 Emerald Archon Shards, to push the stacks of corrosive from 10 to 14 to armor strip enemies by 104%. Next question will be, Hank, what if I run 1 Tau Forged Emerald Archon Shards? It's good, but you can't see enemies if they are armor stripped or not because their HP will remain yellow. It's not bad option, but I don't like it. Simple as that. And of course, don't run 2 Tau Forged, it's gonna be useless. When it comes to Revenant, you can apply the Aura and the Arcanes in any warframe you want. Warframe Camaraderie, Arcane Acceleration, and Arcane Rage. And I've tried with and without, and the weapon will perform not, of course, as much damage, but a little bit less. You're not gonna notice so much the difference. The reason I'm mentioning this, a lot of Thanos would not like Warframe Camaraderie because they're probably using Brief Respite for shield gating, and of course I recommend that if you're going for level cap in specific warframes. Viral Tempest is the augment if you're running Tempest Barrage, but of course I will give you different option, not only Tempest Barrage. Arcane Acceleration for fire rate, Arcane Rage for damage. Now replace first Arcane Acceleration if you need, for example, Energize, Aegis and so on, and then Arcane Rage, or replace them both if you feel like it's really necessary. When it comes to the Daikyu Prime, starting first with the first build, unique trait, weak point hits have 250% critical chance. That leads us to the first mod, primary equity, 350% weak point damage and 350% weak point critical chance. Multi-shot cannot be modified. That's why we're not using a galvanized chamber if you're asking. But there is nothing wrong with using galvanized chamber if you want your sentient weapon to benefit from it. For today's video, we skip that to avoid Thanos getting confused. because a lot of Thanos gets confused when I do that, and they run to the comment section. Oh my god, Galvanized Diffusion is a primary equity. I understand. So we're gonna keep it clear today's video. Now, then more headshots multiplier comes from primary deadhead. On precision, headshot kill 120% damage for 24 seconds and minus weapon recall. Vital Sense, of course, for critical damage. Primed Bane of Origin, multiplicative damage against the faction you're fighting. I hope DE give us a way where we can have a universal one, or we can just trade our mods for a universal one, whatever they decide. Otherwise, you want to switch. This depends on the faction you are fighting. Now, of course, if you don't want to use any of the multiplicative faction mods, you can run, for example, Galvanized Scope. You'll be good to go in there. Now, Suration for damage, Rhyme rounds for cold and statue chance. Of course, you can push this weapon build with this damage even further with Primed Crew rounds to increase the element damage there, which will increase your total damage output. Amalgam Daikyu target acquired 75% to headshot multiplier. Don't mistake it for multi-shot. And lifesteal on Nikana and 60% chance to pick up used arrows will help you along the run when it comes to ammo. Galvanized Aptitude for statue chance on kill, 40% direct damage per statue type affecting the target for 20 seconds, except 2 times. Now, Galvanized Aptitude is really good if you plan on priming enemies. If you're not planning on priming enemies, it's best to use the hammer shot instead. But I highly recommend you prime enemies, and I will show you my favorite secondary weapon to pair with Daikyu Prime. Hellfire for heat, and we'll be running 120% statue chance, which is really good. Vigilante supplies to convert secondary ammo pickups to 30% of ammo pickups, and 5% chance to enhance critical hits from primary weapons, and you can enhance this even further with your sentient weapon. Now, primary deadhead, already we talked about it, and now, for the Thanos that sees the primed mods and don't know how to get them, you get them from Borukitir. He comes every 2 weeks after you crush your unnecessary or not needed prime parts. Make sure to check Warframe market before you crush those prime parts, and in any kiosk in your raid, then you trade them the ducats for the prime mods. Now, when it comes to the galvanized mods, you get them from the relay Arbiters of Hexes after you play the arbitration and you get the Vitus essence. Simple as that. Now, when you have a Riven with damage CCCD, Suration is what you will replace. If you have a Riven with multiplicative damage against the faction, Primed Bane of Origin, what you replace. If you have a Riven with heat, Hellfire. If you have a Riven with cold, Rhyme rounds. Let me know in the comments below what Riven you have, and I'll try to do my best to help you place it. As even if you have the Riven, you need to place it and test it. Even if I tell you so or I recommend so, you need to test, because Riven's about testing, and I don't run any Rivens in my builds, in my videos. They're on even day-to-day basics, so I can't ask you to create or copy my build based on Riven. So you have to go and search for the same one and invest platinum. It doesn't make sense to me, so I avoid using any Rivens. And honestly, this game doesn't need Rivens, but Rivens boosts the weapon's output damage like it's the cherry on top of the cake. Simple as that. Now, when it comes to the Compressor Prime, it will come the build after this video. Madurai, I use it when I'm doing Cascade to take down the Thrax Centurion Ghost form with Void Strike using the AMP 177, where 177 means Raplak Prism from Cetus, Certus Brace and Proper Scaffold from Fortuna. The Arcanes, I use Eternal Onslaught. When I deplete my energy on Operator, I get 180% critical chance, and the Eternal Eradicate for the 60% AMP damage. Now, when it comes to Nautilus, Nautilus here will be good and bad, depends on your aim and all that kind of stuff. Cordon will pull in enemies, and that may give you a hard time aiming at the weak point. Duplex Bond for the clones, Vacuum to pull the loot, Manifold to attack, and then Shield, Armor, Health, Fire Rate, and critical damage if your sentient weapon has 50% plus critical chance. Now, you may wonder why this slot is empty. I'll just put the assault mode in there. I was just testing some stuff, and you will see what I mean. Now, Virglas Prime is the best sentient weapon in the game, in my opinion, but it needs a Riven with critical chance. It doesn't have to be the same Riven, just a critical chance Riven, because even with critical delay and no Riven, 42%. So you need that. Now, if you don't have money for Riven, or you don't have the Riven for it, Primed Razor Rifle, Burst Laser Prime, or Volclock will do the job until so. Otherwise, you sacrifice the 120% critical damage. Simple as that. Now, let's first test this weapon with removing Worthy Camaraderie. I mean, we're just going to replace it with a Brief Respite really quick. and removing Arcane Acceleration and Arcane Rage, and we're going to remove our Sentient, so we see step by step how this weapon will perform, so you understand and you get an idea how you want to invest your platinum, or how you want to invest your time farming the necessary equipment and the stuff to make this build. Here we go. We'll be summoning level 230 heavy corrupted gunners. How I have level 230 in my simulacrum: the higher you get on mastery, the higher enemies level you can summon. So let's land a headshot. As you can see, red crits already, and that's why we're building it around the blast. This weapon is made for blast. As you can see, it's a single target weapon, it's a slow weapon, and you need the blast. The blast, it gets a blasty, and it's the best element for this weapon. Slash is good, but honestly, no, don't go for slash, because it's not gonna do a tick, because it's not a fire rate to have like stacks of slash in there, and so on. As you can see, we're doing a million on level 230 heavy corrupted gunners. That's around, I think, 1 hour on a survival steel path level. That, boom. Now we're relying on killing them with the blast. Now we're going to use viral and corrosive from the Tempest Barrage, lockdown Magus, lockdown Arcane, and boom, 52 million, boom, 28 million, boom, 52 million. Now I missed right there. Oh, 55 million, 52 million. You get the point. Now what we're gonna do is just gonna equip the aura, worthy camaraderie, right here, and then we equip a primary acceleration and then primary rage right about here. Now let's check the performance before equipping our sentient. Go. Same thing. Gonna armor strip enemies like so, and of course you don't need Tempest Barrage. You can do it with anything else. So we need like the 10 stacks fully. See, it's so hard to aim at them without like locking them down. Now you may wonder why you're doing less damage, because they're for example, the shot is not landed exactly on the head, or the enemies doesn't have full stacks. Now that's 46,000. And remember, I'm using the galvanized shot, means the more enemies affected by status, the more direct hit I will be doing. That, like, lock them down like really quick, so we don't waste time in here. Boom, 50 million. The more enemies you have in there, the more damage you'll be doing, because you're proccing the corrosive and viral on them. Go. Done with. Boom, locking this down to this guy, and boom, 65 million. Now that's the boost we was looking for. 65 right there. That guy looking the other way around, and you see when they are like crumble like this, gives you a hard time really to land those headshots. Now when we equip our sentient, I mean, he's not going to help much because he's going to be pulling them as well, but we get the 120% critical damage. Also, we're going to get the fire rate as well, right? But now what we're going to do, we're going to switch to the compressor, right? To prime them with corrosive and viral. So we're not going to be using the Tempest Barrage anymore. There we go. As you can see, the armor strip. Boom, 56 million. You see, as I said earlier, same thing, same results, but with different methods. Okay, let's go with the compressor. Armor strip. 78 million. 92 million. Let's summon more enemies. Let's get them like more stats. Go, here we go, here we go. Boom, 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 boom. And then, boom, 107 million. Go. More compressor. Boom, 103 million. As you can see right there, that's the power of blast that I am talking about right there. Now, what if we add, for example, something like roar in play with the same stuff? In case you want to use roar to boost your damage. Roar is like, think about it like a universal faction mode multiplier. And then we're just gonna add like the first ability Void Strike in there, but they will not survive because they're really like the compressor is really powerful, and he will just take them off. And I need a stronger enemies, and I hope DE really consider giving us enemies like at least level 1000 or level 2000 in Simulacrum, because this enemy is really squishy. 204 million with a blast. And of course you can bring Eclipse, you can bring whatever you want, and that's just done with 122 roar. Of course if you run Rhino, it gets really crazy, especially with full investment of strength, Archon shards, and so on and so on. Now I forgot to mention earlier, the 2 Emerald Archon shards, use them only if you plan on going with priming weapon. If you're going to use a helmet ability or Fox's Call, just avoid doing so. Now let's switch the build of Daikyu to something different that you may expect, which is the long bow sharp shot. On headshot, gain 300% damage on your next shot. Now we'll be running hammer shot, galvanized diffusion, and of course you can take down the hammer shot and you can replace it with the amalgam Daikyu. I'm still on testing on these two, but let's try them together that way. Same thing, we're gonna be armor stripping them and proccing viral on them with the compressor. And the compressor build again will be coming to the channel later on today. Boom, 97 million. Okay, now if we switch it up to the crit damage hammer shot here. Now remember, use the galvanized shot, this one, only if you plan galvanized aptitude, sorry, only if you plan on priming the enemies. Okay, otherwise there is no pretty much a good use there like that. Of course the stage is nice, but there you go, 21 million. Go, just armor stripping them and proccing these stacks on there. 35 million, and so on and so on. You get the point. Let's activate roar right there. Opposite, whatever. No one we're gonna know. No one gonna know. Go. Now you see Nautilus when he pulls them in, he gives you hard time. But in case you're wondering how blast exactly work, boom. Blast deal 30% of base damage after 1.5 seconds as an explosion at 10 stacks or on death. Stacks deal their damage simultaneously to enemies within 5 meters while staggering them. Best in slot element, but I prefer this build. It's really good and powerful, and it will not fail you at any level of the game. Now some channels may ask, would this Daikyu work against disruption enemies? Yes, but you need to prime, you need to strip, you need to proc viral, and you need the Zata Whisper, and it will pretty much work. Yeah. And by this we reach the end of our video. I would give this weapon 7 out of 10 when it comes to headshot damage, but it's really specific for specific players and specific style. So I really hope DE may, let's say, make this weapon either AoE or make it incarnate weapon in the future, and that I believe may happen in the future if DE really puts the work into it. Otherwise, 5 out of 10 as overall weapon. It doesn't clear rooms for you even with the blast, but very solid, powerful weapon. Don't take it to level cap by itself. Of course, take always a secondary weapon or a melee weapon as a backup to cover for you clearance of enemies and depleting of exolizers. And that's pretty much it. I want to say thank you so much for all your support, liking, subbing, commenting, joining my Discord in the description, follow me on TikTok. Big love to you all, and special thanks to Hall of members, special VIPs, and disputed donators, and Hall of donators, and all my community members. And I'll see you guys next time. Remember, Daikyu Prime and the Compressor Prime builds coming later today.